Toxic algal bloom devastates South Australia's marine life. A recent calamity involving an algal bloom that has turned the pristine waters of South Australia a toxic green and suffocated countless marine organisms is being recognised as a natural disaster, according to the South Australian Premier. This rapid proliferation of algae, which can be a natural occurrence in aquatic environments, has been escalating since March and has now expanded to an area that is twice the size of the Australian Capital Territory. In response to the crisis, the federal government has introduced a support package amounting to 14 million Australian dollars, approximately $9 million or £6.7 million. However, they have opted not to classify this event as a natural disaster, a designation typically reserved for catastrophic events like cyclones, floods, and bushfires, which would trigger a more extensive relief response. According to authorities, the algal bloom has already led to the deaths of over 400 species of marine life, resulting in significant repercussions for local industries. While algal blooms are typically natural, their occurrence is increasingly driven by factors such as rising ocean temperatures, marine heatwaves, and nutrient pollution, issues that are both magnified and accelerated by climate change. Premier Peter Malinauskas expressed his concern on Tuesday, stating, "This is a natural disaster and should be recognized as such." Politicians can undermine their own credibility when they get bogged down in technical definitions. In a show of support, he declared that his government would match the federal funding with an additional 14 million Australian dollars aimed at facilitating research initiatives, clean-up efforts, and industry support. Critics, including Sarah Hanson-Young, a Green senator from South Australia, have publicly condemned the federal government for downplaying the severity of the situation. She remarked, "If this toxic algal bloom had struck Bondi Beach or the North Shore in Sydney, the Prime Minister would have been there on the beach implementing a response right away." Despite the troubling nature of the bloom and its impacts, Federal Environment Minister Murray Watt stated on Monday that the incident, while deeply concerning, does not fulfill the criteria for a natural disaster under current Australian legislation. The bloom has now spread from the Coorong to the Yorke Peninsula, an area significantly larger than the Australian Capital Territory, devastating local ecosystems and lining the shores with dead wildlife. "It's like a horror film for fish," remarked Brad Martin from Ouncefish, a non-profit organisation dedicated to protecting fishing habitats. This environmental disaster is also taking a toll on the local economy. Figures from the fishing industry indicate that some members of this community have not seen income for at least 3 months due to the impact of the algal bloom. "I've got fishermen in tears on the phone," lamented Ian Mitchell, who acts as a liaison between fishers and retailers, speaking to the ABC about the emotional and economic distress facing those affected by this environmental crisis. South Australia algal bloom declared natural disaster. Marine life wiped out. **** A devastating environmental crisis. South Australia's algal bloom ***. In a shocking declaration, the Premier of South Australia, Peter Malinauskas, has labelled a toxic algal bloom as a natural disaster following the tragic deaths of thousands of marine animals. This ecological catastrophe is not only claiming marine life, but is also significantly impacting local tourism and the seafood industry. Since the bloom was first identified in March, reports indicate that several thousand marine creatures have perished, raising alarms about the health of the ecosystem. ***, the scale of the disaster ***. On Tuesday, Premier Malinauskas emphasised the severity of the situation, stating, "I want to be really clear about this. This is a natural disaster. Politicians can do themselves a disservice when they get caught up in technicalities. This is a natural disaster, and it should be recognised as such." The algal bloom, which covers an astonishing area of 4,500 square kilometres, has been exacerbated by rising ocean temperatures, according to environmental officials. Malinauskas reported that over 400 marine species have been affected, leading to unprecedented levels of mortality. "It's crucial to understand that this is an extraordinary event," he remarked. We have never witnessed an algal bloom of this magnitude along our coastline before. In response to this crisis, Malinorskers announced a support package of $12.5 million CAD, which matches a similar commitment from the federal government. Together, this $25 million fund aims to facilitate cleanup operations, research initiatives, and support for local businesses. The science behind the bloom. The toxic bloom is primarily attributed to the overgrowth of the Karenia mycomotor algal species, which poses a threat to fish by damaging their gills and depleting oxygen levels in the water as it decomposes. This situation has been worsened by a marine heat wave that began in 2024, during which sea temperatures were approximately 2.5 degrees Celsius higher than normal. Michael Parsons, a marine science professor at Florida Gulf Coast University, warns that such algal blooms may become more frequent as climate change continues to create favorable conditions for these toxic species. One concern is that many of these harmful algal bloom species, particularly in temperate and subtropical waters, struggle to survive in colder winter temperatures. If we experience milder autumn and winter temperatures, these species may continue to thrive and bloom throughout the winter months, he explained. Patrick Martone, a botany professor at the University of British Columbia, added that increased rainfall due to climate change is washing more nutrients from land into the ocean, further fueling the growth of algal blooms. Once a bloom has taken hold, he noted, the only option is to let it die off naturally. There's no feasible way for people to filter out all the algae from the water, Martone lamented. Unfortunately, there's no effective solution to this problem. The impact on marine life and local economy. To date, over 13,850 dead marine animals, including sharks, rays, and various invertebrates, have been reported by the public using the iNaturalist app. The algal bloom has severely affected tourism and has forced local oyster and mussel farms to temporarily close due to toxins released into the water by the algae. Long-term consequences. Parsons cautioned that the effects of the bloom could have lasting repercussions on the local ecosystem, as the toxins from the algae can ascend the food chain. Additionally, the bacteria necessary to decompose the vast amounts of dead marine life can further deplete oxygen levels in the surrounding waters, leading to more fatalities. We have seen similar harmful algal bloom species where the impacts can last for years as fish populations struggle to recover, he stated. Murray Watt, Australia's Environment Minister, acknowledged the seriousness of the algal bloom, calling it a very serious environmental event. However, he refrained from declaring it a national disaster, which would enable more extensive federal assistance. What do you think? This situation raises critical questions about our environmental policies and the impact of climate change on marine ecosystems. How should governments respond to such ecological crises? What measures can be taken to prevent future occurrences? Share your thoughts in the comments below. South Australia's algal crisis, a national emergency? Imagine a crisis so severe that it draws comparisons to one of the most devastating natural disasters in recent history. The ongoing algal bloom crisis in South Australia, SA, has led to the tragic discovery of over 450 marine species washed ashore, dead. This alarming situation has prompted discussions at the federal level, echoing the catastrophic impact of the Black Saturday bushfires. The sheer scale of this environmental disaster is staggering, and it raises urgent questions about the health of our oceans and the ecosystems they support. The comparison to the Black Saturday bushfires is not made lightly. Both events highlight the devastating consequences of environmental neglect and the urgent need for a coordinated response. As we delve deeper into this issue, it becomes clear that the algal crisis is not just a local problem but one that could have national implications. The federal government is now being called upon to take decisive action, much like the response to the bushfires that ravaged communities and wildlife alike. But here's where it gets controversial. Some experts argue that the government's response may not be sufficient to address the root causes of such algal blooms, which are often linked to pollution and climate change. Are we merely treating the symptoms rather than the underlying issues? This situation invites a broader conversation about environmental stewardship and the responsibilities we hold towards our planet. What do you think? Are we doing enough to protect our marine ecosystems, or are we waiting for another disaster to spur action? Share your thoughts in the comments below.